Hi there! Welcome to another Smash or Trash. When Mr. Milne wrote Winnie the Pooh in 1926, a book we all know from childhood, we met the main character who loved honey. Honey which is good for you, as some say, which tastes great and which is a natural product. Anyway, something came up a few months ago on the channel 7 meters under, my best regards. One Polish dealer talked about what happens behind the scenes of his profession, disclosing something new to us: honey in the engine. Honey poured into the engine in order to muffle any clearances that may have appeared on the bearing shells or swivels, as well as any funny engine noises, in order to sell the car and give a limited warranty that expires right behind the gate. And so, this theory has spread all around the country. The film has over 2 million views. The same dealer mentioned another illegal practice, namely sawdust. Sawdust in the gearbox. Sawdust in transmission and differentials. I've been hearing about it for the last 2 or 3 decades, ever since I started to be interested in cars. I always heard that people do these things. I've never met anyone who does it. So we will take on the task of checking if it works and whether it's going to damage or improve anything. We've had a long discussion about honey in the engine. What's going to happen? How to do it? I decided to sacrifice another car. You know this Seicento well, especially Instagrammers. Unfortunately, corrosion was quicker than the YouTube career of the Godlewski sisters, and we decided to scrap it. The engine here is 1.1, a real moron-proof, accident-free little engine with the mileage of 93,000 kilometers. We also had to repair the top of the engine, because there was not much driving without water. So I was thinking about how to do it, okay? The transmission worked alright here, let's say. So did the engine. The origin of this test was the urge to check the harmfulness of these things. Now we must mention a few important things here. Anyone who wants to sell a car in Poland and who plans to conceal defects from the buyer by using methods like sawdust or pouring anything into the engine, be it honey or motodoctor, risks committing a crime. A word of caution if anyone was planning to do so. Before we move on to testing, which was done with the use of 2 cameras, actually because we had a small one too, we decided to check the compression first, the pressure inside. Why? That's always a good indicator of the state of the engine. In this case, I didn't expect a lower compression as many of you would think. I wanted to check if things wouldn't glue together and seal more tightly. I also checked it for seizure, so we took the bearing shell from the first cylinder and took photos. Check it out!
Sun is out here overseas. Dark emotions ever torn so deep, falling down through the clouds. I'm feeling you. Stay away from me. You keep haunting me.
Then we drained all oil from the transmission. But here we encountered a problem. If I don't know anyone who does this, then how do I do it? How much of sawdust? What grit type of sawdust? Take a look then. Special sawdust. Just kidding. I followed the instructions and mixed 1 liter of our liquid with 2 handfuls of fine sawdust and 1 handful of coarse sawdust. Then we stirred it well among the fits of laughter. I know how it looks, but believe me, it looked even worse in reality. Then we encountered another problem with how to convey it. 2 biggest blocks working here fought and fought until we loaded the whole transmission with this stew made of sawdust and all that, until it started to overflow.
Keep holding on to memories.
We had checked the bearing shell before, so the engine had no oil. We poured 2 liters of oil out of 3.5 and topped it all up with honey. I chose the most liquid one. If it was the thick one, I would have to load it with an ice cream scoop. So application was problematic, as you can see here.
Walking down through the fields, I still want you. Stay away from me. Stay away from me. Stay away from me. You keep haunting me. I feel that I've been chasing dreams. Keep holding on to memories. Tears that I will not regret. Sacrifice will prove instead. I feel that I've been chasing dreams. Keep holding on to memories. Tears that I will not regret.
After putting it all in, I figured I had to make some case. So, switching to the handheld camera now to take you on a 2 or 3 day trip from the workshop home, then back, then repeat, which took some 340 to 350 kilometers in total. See what happens. Putting us through now. Are you there, Mihu? Alright, Mihu, I'm here. I hope you can see me. Let's start. Wait up, I'm switching from automatic. God, who designed these tiny pedals? Little pricks. Let's check the meter. Can you see anything? I have to put the gimbal in there. Can you see anything? Switch off the lights. Okay, I will turn it on. So far the engine works fine, if you can use this expression at all. Wheezes and sneezes, more than anything else. 70 kilometers. Alright, 93,199. Let's reset it. The drawing machine chamber is empty. If anything happens, I will let you know. Hopefully we meet on the allotment. Day 1. Mission accomplished. Impressions after 75 Ks?
Po 75 kilometrach.
Can you see my whole head? There.
Tak więc
The engine works fine with no audible changes. The transmission is also fine, although I feel it's a bit more rigid. When I'm in gear and put my foot up from the accelerator, it brakes as sharply as a diesel, but this can just be my impression. Let's leave it out in the frost and go back in the morning, so tomorrow we'll already have 150 Ks. Right, 150. Alright, another day. It was a frosty night. Let's see what happens. Why would I lock the car in this wealthy village? The washers are down, but don't worry. I bought a window cleaning detergent. Let's try to start it. As you can hear, nothing is happening. Transmission. Everything is working. Surprise, surprise. Okay, 74 on the meter. See you later. 150. No changes. The transmission is fine. The engine is still running. Strange. Very strange. I will see you after another 70. Good Thursday morning. I'm a bit sleepy, sorry for that. So that you know, I didn't move at night. The 6 Cento. Instagrammers have a heads up. They already saw what's up yesterday. I'm a bit sleepy, sorry. It's kiss. It's freezing.
Uwaga.
All right.
Mamy.
242 kilometers on the meter. How cool is that? The foreman would be proud.
Maryna, nie?
I'm off to shoot new episodes. I'm not going to report after I get there. I'll just come back tomorrow, otherwise this episode would be 3 years long. But the engine works fine. The transmission is a little rigid, so the frost takes its toll.
Okej.
But I don't know. I hope I didn't bore you. Tell you what. Check out the engine oil when we drain it. Now, the oil from the transmission.
You're a rolling stone, but I'm a cannonball. You're not fooling me, not fooling anyone.
A bit of surprise here. When you heard that the transmission was more stiff one day and less stiff another, it was not only in my head. The sawdust got minced to the point that you can't see it anymore. And you saw the slurry we put in there. Rotational speeds and so on. How is the transmission doing after 350 kilometers?
Got your head in a cloud, you're delusional. In an ocean of all this emotion, best be sure.
Do you see any fatigue on the sprockets? Not really. Any abrasions? Not really. This could actually work as a salesman trick. It could. The question is, how long and how? In what types of transmissions? In the rear axle, I mean in a differential, probably yes. But remember that the lie has no legs, and after a while, this could end badly. I think the sellers might have used this method because actually the transmission sound at high RPMs was completely different than before we put it in. It might have muffled the sound if there had been clearances. But let's focus on the honey. It's a novelty. Look what happened to the oil pickup. Yes, we made fudges. Check out the bearing shells from before and let's compare them with the bearing shells after. See any difference? No abrasions. Did the engine work in a different way? Probably not so much. The sound was the same, though it's difficult to measure anyway. There was no sense measuring the engine power, so nothing here either. We can't measure the density and viscosity. We would have to send it to the lab. But it does look like a Snickers bar. So is this healthy for the engine in the long run? No. But a fun fact is that if the engine burns oil, you get a fudgy smell in the rear. For real, there's a really sweet smell back there. Could honey really muffle anything? I can't say I agree. Even after it all cooled down and mixed together, the texture is still quite runny, I would say. When it comes to resellers and what they did, they probably put so much of motodoctors and other substances so as to increase density and muffle any clearances. It all has no legs, really. It's just to make it last until the purchase, and then it's the client's problem, which becomes apparent with the first oil change. Very often after such operations, it turns out that the bearing shell starts making noises, for example. There was so much sealant needed that I say honey is a trash. But Michu, is it okay to do it? What for? Honey is expensive and gives you nothing. It didn't change the engine sound. This one really doesn't sound too good, it's been through a lot. Not so much in terms of mileage, but because it's many adventures. It didn't sound like velvet all of a sudden, nor as sweet as honey. It's all just bullshit. You all know you must change the oil often, that it's not good to save on oil. If the producer recommends 5W30 according to the specific SAE classification, then that's what we should use until the end, for the lifetime. So I think adding honey is bullshit. It won't help in any way. Maybe I will test it over 10,000 kilometers. At some point, I will just kill this engine. Does honey have the viscosity, temperature decreasing parameters? I mean, it's not oil for crying out loud. Let's not forget it was only mixed with oil. I couldn't pour honey alone, and the reseller didn't say I should. He said, we were adding honey to the engine to muffle all that. So here's the deal. Sawdust could actually muffle something there, and you can actually word that such actions were taken. But it's very difficult to detect, and it only works for a while. I only made a few dozen kilometers and the transmission was back to normal. It just missed it all. If there were any clearances, a roaring differential for example, then after a few dozen kilometers after the purchase, the differential would miss it all and start to roar again, so you could come back with the warranty. The same with any kind of transmission. It all has no legs. An episode you guys wanted so much, so leave thumbs up and share it, let it travel far and wide so that there is nobody left thinking they can fix a problem by adding anything to the engine. First you detect the problem, then you fix it. If it's something with a bearing shell, you have to see what's up. Take it out, measure and make a repair, and not follow the mentality of looking for superficial solutions. It just makes no sense. So, no pouring honey into the engine. No pouring sawdust. Can you actually pour sawdust? Well, we made it into a liquid. Whenever we have a problem, let's fix it alright instead of masking it. Remember, that's the moral of it all. I say it's trash. Trash, trash, trash. If it's smash, then a short time only, and I'm speaking about sawdust in the gearbox because that's the only difference we had. Oh yes! I forgot about the most important thing. What's the deal with compression? Yes, it actually got higher. Why? Well, the wise viewers will guess that everything sealed better. If we had those fudges on the oil pickup, then probably the piston rings were covered by this mass as well. I think it would all go back to normal after rinsing or flushing of the engine. See you in the next episode then. See ya!